For a time I took another chef's job of sorts, at a moment of need, at Billy's, a combo sit-down, upscale chicken joint on Bleecker Street. My boss was an older Jewish guy fresh out of prison who'd named the place after his youngest son, Billy. He had been in an earlier life the head of a count room at a Las Vegas casino. After being caught skimming off millions for the boys back home in New York and Cincinnati, he had been offered a friendly deal should he cooperate with prosecutors. He had admirably declined, and as a result spent the last 5 years eating prison chow. When he got out a near broken man, his old buddies in New York, being men of honor, set him up with a restaurant with promises of more to come. Unfortunately, while in prison, the old man had completely lost his mind. Now, this wasn't a classic bust-out operation where the mob deliberately runs the place into the ground. I think the wise guys really wanted the poor slob to make money and be a success. Now, I'd seen mobsters around before, of course, but I never worked in a place that was out and out mobbed up, where I came to recognize, on a personal basis, real wise guys whose names I'd seen in the papers. Everyone was astonishingly upfront about their connections. My boss was fond of yelling into the phone when discussing prices with a purveyor. "You know who I am? You know who I'm with?" We did things differently at Billy's. My cooks, for one. Every one of them came from the Fortune Society, guys who spent their off hours in halfway houses allowed out only to work. I can't say this was an altogether unhappy arrangement either, for once I knew all my cooks were going to show up to work every day, and if they didn't, they'd be sent back to prison. And credit was easily obtained. No sooner was I off the phone than stuff was arriving, often on 60-day terms. So, my day-to-day was spent with genial gentlemen from an Italian fraternal organization. They helpfully told me where to buy my linen, bread, paper goods, and so on. I had a lot of meetings in cars. "The bread guy is here," I'd be told, and a late model Buick would pull up out front. Yet some things were off limits. Trash removal, I found, was a mysteriously prearranged division of labor. When I called around for price quotes, I was repeatedly given prices far exceeding the national debt, until I called a company I'd obviously been intended to do business with. "Oh yeah, Billy's?" said the voice on the other line. "I was waiting for you to call," and he quoted me a very reasonable price. When we finally opened, we were packed from the very first moment. Orders flooded in over the phone, at the counter, and at the tables. We were underprepared and understaffed, so the Italian contingent, all of them overweight, cigar-chomping, middle-aged guys with bodyguards and $10,000 watches, pitched in to help out with deliveries and at the counters. Guys I'd read about later in the paper as running construction in the outer boroughs, purported killers, made men, who lived in concrete piles on Staten Island and security fence estates in Jersey, carried brown paper bags of chicken sandwiches up 3 flights of stairs to Greenwich Village, walk-up apartments to make deliveries. I have to say, I liked them for that. But when my boss inexplicably showed up one day and told me to fire everyone with a tattoo on my staff, I was faced with a dilemma. Every single one of my cooks was festooned with prison tats, screaming skulls, Jesus on a hypodermic cross, bound in barbed wire, gang tats, flaming tats, swastikas, SS flashes, born to lose, born dead, born to raise hell, love, hate, mom, portraits of the Madonna, wives, girlfriends, Ozzy Osbourne. I tried to put him off, explaining that we couldn't do without these guys, that the hardest working, most indispensable guy we had was a goddamn Sistine Chapel of skin art. And where was I going to find a convict without a tattoo? The Watergate burglars weren't, to my knowledge, available. The next day he came in obsessing about gold chains and jewelry. My grill man had the usual ghetto adornments of the day. "Where do you think that eggplant got all that gold?" he raved, spraying food and saliva as he talked. "Selling drugs, mugging old ladies. That shit's poison. I don't want him in a restaurant. Get him out!" I sought counsel with one of the silent partners. "You hear what he wants me to do?" I asked. The man just nodded, rolled his eyes sympathetically. "Do nothing," he said, and then with a truly dangerous intonation added, "Aspetta," meaning wait in Italian. I didn't like the sound of that, and I couldn't help picturing my boss slumped over the dashboard after one of those meetings in cars they were all so fond of. When things came to a head a few days later, my boss openly screaming in the middle of the crowded dining room that he wanted all the gold chain wearers and tattooed guys out now. I told him to pay me what he owed. I was leaving for good. He refused. One of the silent partners came over, peeled off my pay, plus an extra 100 for my troubles from a fat roll in his suit pocket. He gave me a warm smile, and he bade me goodbye. Now, I don't know whatever happened to Billy's. It certainly never developed into a worldwide chain as my crazed boss had envisioned, or even a second store. The next time I was in the neighborhood, a picture framer occupied the place where the restaurant had been. What happened to the old man and his dreams of a poultry empire for his son? I can only guess. It's Anthony Bourdain.